Thank you. Good morning. It is exciting for us to be here, the home of American Bandstand. I have been reminded, which is great, because we are here to help make a new generation of stars in entrepreneurship and wealth building for the country. So I so appreciate the chance to start my day with you. I want to thank everyone at the Enterprise Center for hosting us, and I want to thank all of my fellow panelists for the discussion we are about to have. As you heard as they were introduced, my colleagues from the department, Portia Allen Kyle, our Senior Advisor in the Office of Civil Rights, and my colleague Shelby Scales, Director of our Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization, Della Clark, who just spoke, who I know will be providing a lot of insights here, and really looking forward to connecting our ideas with the perspective from Leslie Richards from SEPTA. Let me also acknowledge Congressman Evans. Thank you for, there you are, just on the other side of the flag. Thank you for your leadership and for welcoming us to Philadelphia. All of the elected and appointed leadership who care about this shared purpose. And I'm so thankful to my colleagues across the Department of Transportation and in other agencies, like the Small Business Administration and the Minority Business Development Agency, that are playing such an important role and that we are partnering with in unprecedented ways. I want to thank the Mid-Atlantic Small Business Transportation Resource Center, hosted here at the Enterprise Center, for the great work that they've been doing and for helping us get here today. And to our audience, to the community of small businesses, contractors, capital providers, technical assistance experts, state and local partners, thank you so much for being here. We are here because this is a once-in-a-lifetime, historic, generational moment of investment in America's transportation infrastructure. And we will not have another chance to get it right at this scale. We're an administration that is absolutely committed to supporting small business, to advancing equity with every tool at our disposal, and that includes in our contracting. And I know that the voices and the faces represented here understand this because you live it. Infrastructure projects create good-paying jobs. They create contracting opportunities that generate income for families that then makes it possible for Americans to send their kids to college, to buy homes, to build intergenerational wealth for the future. A few months ago, I was able to meet with some of the workers who are working on new metro lines and airport improvements in Los Angeles. And a number of them were born and raised in that zip code, that same zip code as the airport, but grew up not knowing that those good-paying jobs could be for them until the right kind of programming brought them into the fold. Many of them had no family background in construction or engineering. Some of them were previously justice involved, and now all of them had, you could feel the pride and the belonging that their work gave to them, and a long-term economic trajectory, peace of mind about their future in addition to that good paycheck. I've engaged with business leaders like a Hispanic-owned civil engineering firm in Virginia who got help from an SBTRC just like this one, and then went on to partner with prime contractors on a number of road construction projects so that their business grew from 28 people and $1.3 million in revenue in 2019 to 70 people and $18 million in revenue now. That is the power of the kinds of opportunities that are emerging in infrastructure. And we've seen how when the contracts are equitably distributed, it can benefit an entire region. I often think of the historic example of how a single set of projects in Atlanta, Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, created so much work that it helped to establish one of the strongest black middle classes in the country. And that happened largely because leaders at that time made sure that black workers and business owners had a seat at the table and a chance at the work that was being created. Now, that happened a generation ago under Mayor Maynard Jackson, but when we were in Atlanta to look at the new round of improvements that they were doing, we sat down with the businesses that were involved, and many of them explained how they got their start with that opportunity a generation ago, and we're growing even more today. So right now, we've got to ensure access and fairness in contracting with the thousands and thousands of projects that we're supporting through the President's bipartisan infrastructure law that the President signed just almost a year ago. And I recognize, as every business owner in this room knows, it is challenging to participate in infrastructure opportunities, especially for small disadvantaged businesses and for DBEs. From bonding requirements, lack of access to capital, challenges with workforce development, certification processes that are not exactly user-friendly or easily exchanged between states and between federal and state government. We understand that these barriers stand in the way, and we're committed to working with you to tear them down. And we acknowledge that the federal government can be a better partner than we've been in the past. We're committed to doing that. And we are thrilled with the opportunities in front of us. That's why our Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization is hosting trainings and capacity building activities, events like the one we're at right now that are going to help more businesses succeed in your contracting efforts. It's why we are revamping our entire DBE program rule. In fact, we just extended the public comment period to October 31st. So we are counting on your experiences and your stories. If you haven't yet weighed in the public comments, please consider doing so, because that will shape the final rule. We want to modernize that program. We want to make sure it fits the moment. We've streamlined our procurement forecast so you have access to an easy-to-use database of contract opportunities across the department. And it's why we've signed 3 new MOUs with our colleagues at the other agencies, SBA and MBDA, which will help, among other things, with access to capital and coordination on surety bonding that we know is a big issue. It's why we created a new internal procurement equity dashboard so that decision makers can look at direct spending to make sure we're hitting our own small business goals as an agency. And as of today, I'm proud to share that we have a target that was an ambitious target set under President Biden to expand federal contracting direct spend to 20% going to small disadvantaged businesses. And I'm proud to share with you that as of today, we are exceeding that 20% goal and getting ready to reach for even higher heights. We're helping states, and we're pleased to support a partnership of states that recently announced they are going to be the first movers signing the Equity Infrastructure Project Pledge, committing to making more opportunities available to DBEs. And we're emphasizing this conversation also when we are talking to businesses of all sizes. So the message that I'm offering in this room is the same as the message that is on my mind when I'm speaking to the largest primes and engineering companies in the country. It'll be the same as the message I have when I'm speaking to state DOT directors later on this week. It is something that's going to require everybody to be part of the solution. So we know the opportunity in our hands. We also know the work ahead. And nothing would make me prouder than to run into some of the businesses represented here a few years later and hear that this moment, this season, these opportunities transformed your ability to grow and thrive. So remember to come up to me after those success stories become a reality when we cross paths in the future. I won't monologue any longer because we've got a great panel ahead, but again, I'm really looking forward to this discussion and to the opportunities we can create together. And with that, I will turn it over to our moderators to lead the discussion and go take my seat, which I'm guessing is that empty one right in the middle. Thank you again for the chance to kick off the day with you.
The secretary got me on. Secretary, you brought up certifications, and that is an area that I want to make you aware that I want the minority businesses in the room to stand up. I think the secretary needs to know who's a minority business in this room. Please stand up, okay? You heard him mention $80 million in another city. We want to make sure that all of these entrepreneurs standing up here, they can do 80 million or more, right? And our city needs that. So, Secretary, you are looking at entrepreneurs who are hungry, who have capacity, but they need 2 things. They need access to capital, and they need access to contracts. You mentioned 20%. I didn't clap. I want them to have 80% of that 100%, right? Right? So These are the job creators for our region, and we need them to grow because Philadelphia needs to create new jobs and get people back to work. And these are the people that can do it if we can bring capital and contracts.
That's why we're here, and we're excited. And again, it's inspiring to actually be with the business leaders that we're working to empower. So we look forward to this vision. There's a contagious energy here to what you see in the future of this community, and we want to take these practices all around the country.
I know you met Leslie. Leslie came out, and Leslie walked with me from the Enterprise Center up to 52nd Street, over to 48th and Spruce, and back to the Enterprise Center. Now, I was huffing and puffing, but she was walking really good, right?
Good shoes.
Right. And so I want you to know that Leslie and I already started thinking about how we can partner together and how we can work together, because as I mentioned to you, there's two transportation nodes, 46th and 52nd. And those two make this area a transit-oriented development. So Leslie, why don't you tell the Secretary some of the things that you're thinking about?
Sure. Thanks. Thanks so much. And Secretary, it's wonderful to be talking to you directly on these very important issues. And so Della was explaining all the investment that she's been working very hard with her and her team in this area. And there's a lot of opportunity here. And people are seeing it. They're investing in old buildings. They're bringing their companies. She has national companies, I'd say international. We saw J.P. Morgan moving in on 52nd Street, something that I don't think we would have seen 5-10 years ago. And it's because people believe in Della and what she's doing, and people believe in the work that's being done here in Philadelphia. Obviously, SEPTA services this area as well. One of our main subway lines, the Market Frankfurt line, goes right up Market here, stops at 46, and it stops right near on 52nd as well. And so we know we want to bring people to opportunities. That's what we're about, connecting people to opportunities, and that's what Della has been doing as well. So we're really excited. We've been involved in the Equity and Infrastructure Project. We've been one of the first 5 signers, working with Phil Washington out of Denver, working with Dorville Carter out of Chicago, working with Southern California agencies as well. And we're so proud, because why this is different this time is because we have a historic investment, right, that is made with the bill. And not only can we invest in infrastructure, and I've heard you talk about how we deserve better infrastructure, right? We travel around the country, we see what other countries have, and we deserve that here in the United States. So not only can we invest in at historic levels, but with the promise of President Biden's Justice 40 initiative, we can make sure that more dollars, more contracts go to historically underutilized businesses more than ever before. And this is about building generational wealth. It's about making sure people have opportunities, firms have opportunities that have not had them before. And so we are working in a serious way. And we have definite ways in which we are going to make all that happen. And so we'll make sure that no one leaves here today without understanding new opportunities that are coming this way, how SEPTA and others, and I have to give a shout out obviously to the City of Philadelphia. I see Mayor Kenny right here and his administration, Mike Carroll, our board members, and Deb Mahler, also part of Kenny's administration. We're working together because we know important projects that are important to the City of Philadelphia, to SEPTA, to those who live here, is important to everybody. And I'll just end with this. For us, this is personal. This is the largest, poorest city in the United States. We have an opportunity to lift people out of poverty. We have an opportunity to give firms opportunities they've never had before. And we are going to make a transformational change here in the Philadelphia region. And we're going to be a national model doing it. So we're very excited.
So I mentioned to the Secretary that he had come to the hood today here at 46 and Market. And Secretary, I want you to know that, neighborhoods like this and communities in this part of Philadelphia have always received program dollars, but they've never received investment capital. And when you talk about infrastructure, we need investment capital. We don't need program. The entrepreneurs that stood up in front of you today, they do not want to participate in another single program. Am I right? Right? They want capital and they want to prove capacity and get opportunities to capital. And so it's very important that we stop looking at, everybody uses the word underserved. I use the word low wealth. We need to bring wealth to these communities. Shelby, you going to help?
Yeah, I do, and I want to volley over to my secretary. But one of the things that the secretary has really pushed our team on, particularly as we are developing our equity strategy, is partnering with our federal partners. And we have some of them in the audience today who are dealing with just that issue. We have MBDA, if you'll raise your hand and wave at the audience as well. We also have Founders Impact, if you'll stand and wave, as well as Sam Boyd from SBA, who's a detail from SBA. So one of the things that our secretary was able to do with our administrator Guzman was really help us negotiate how we work together to create an SBIC for DOT. And so we're very, very proud of that. We're going to take that and continue to bring our equity partners through our leadership of Sam Boyd in the audience today to do just that, Della, to make sure that we're not just offering loans at the community level, but that we are also on a federal level looking at our partnership with Treasury, looking at our partnership with SBA, and investing dollars to go and match and align with the bipartisan infrastructure law as well. So I did want to kind of volley over to you because I know you've been very instrumental in helping us pull that together and pull that to the table.
Thanks, Shelby. That's exactly right. We've got to make sure we have all of the different pieces on the federal side, first of all, working together. There's so much expertise at SBA. There's so much commitment at MBDA, which sits in the Department of Commerce. But the federal organization chart isn't always great at cutting across those kinds of silos. When you're a mayor, as Mayor Kenny well knows, you don't get to think about housing one month and then transportation the next month and then business development the month after that. These things are all exquisitely interconnected, and we're very mindful of that, and we're trying to make sure that our strategy reflects that. But the other thing, and this is why I'm so glad that SEPTA is here, and this is why we're talking so much to our state partners, is the truth is I'm very proud of our direct spending work, the fact that on direct dollars where we, US DOT, issue a contract, that we're upping our game in terms of SDB engagement. And yes, we're taking that 20% as a floor, not as a ceiling. But for every dollar that we actually write a contract, there's something like 10 that are going out to Pennsylvania DOT, to SEPTA, to City of Philadelphia when they succeed on a grant application. Our state and local partners and transit agencies are making a lot of these calls too. And we recognize that as an obligation. If the dollars are coming out of our building and flowing out to these project partners, we need to be teaming up with these partners to be teaming up with you. And that also means building capacity. So we have a responsibility not just, I know utilization is the term of art in it's even written into the name of OSDBU, it's written into a lot of our programs. But it's not just utilization of the capacity that's there, it's growing the capacity that could be there. We're about to move $1 trillion through the economy of the United States of America. Shame on us if 5 years later, after $1 trillion moved, we got the same number of minority-owned businesses of the same size that we had before. The denominator's got to get bigger too, and it will, with your help and with our help. And that's part of what we're teaming up to do with all these specific tools that we're talking about today.
So Shelby, if you heard the Secretary talk about how at the federal level it's somewhat fragmented, it's fragmented for the entrepreneurs too, as they try to navigate and maneuver through this system because the ecosystem is not friendly for them, right? And time and money is important to them, how they navigate. How can we improve that? We need intermediaries and conveners that really focus on procurement during this historic moment.
Absolutely. I'm going to start with one part of our approach, and that is, again, working with our MBDA centers, our small business centers with SBA, our women's business centers, our very own SBTRC centers, all these acronyms. I apologize, audience, for we love acronyms. But also the White House under the Biden administration has pulled together about 50 private sector, foundations, and financial institutions under the umbrella called Economic Opportunity Coalition. So you'll see real soon in the next 60 days a concierge platform that will be rolling out. That will be a one-stop shop for small businesses to go and find you and find access to capital, find bonding classes, et cetera, et cetera. We definitely see the need to reconcile all of the programs and the resources and the efforts. And so we're really leaning into our private sector to help us use technology to address that as well. But I also want to lean over a little bit to Portia, because Portia, I know you've been working with our equity program as well, our equity plan with our Department of Civil Rights, and there's a role to play also, to your point, on enforcement as well as monitoring. How do we work with our subrecipients and our state DOTs, our Office of Civil Rights at that level, to make sure that they are connecting with our small businesses and providing the resources and the access at that point?
Yes, thank you, Shelby. And, to build on what the Secretary was saying in terms of partnerships and our responsibility and role in there, it's our responsibility to get our recipients to step it up, like with, for lack of a better term or a term of art, right? So we're working with them, to not just on what the role is in terms of compliance and with civil rights laws and our non-discrimination programs, et cetera, but we're, building capacity and training on how should you be setting DBE goals? How should you be, when you have money, and resources to distribute, how are you evaluating Justice 40, that was mentioned, which, says for our department-covered programs that 40% of the benefits of federal funding in these programs should be flowing to I know you hate underserved, but part of this is in the language, right, to underserved communities. And so, and in those processes, and it is our, I know it was mentioned, kind of tired of taking another class, but it's our role to build up the technical assistance for our recipients so that they're, getting schooled and, being trained and raising the bar on how to engage communities, how to engage business owners, how to create partnerships, as part of that project development early on in the process, not just, when you're and early on in the process, really sometimes at the MPO and the planning stages regionally, as funding is being thought about and where to go and prioritize across regions, across cities, across, communities. And so our role in that process is, one that is unique but fun and comprehensive, and making sure and ensuring the tools for equitable distribution and accountability through those mechanisms. And so we've been ramping up that strategy, upping our commitments, pounding the pavement across the country, to attend events like these and many others all over the place, to make sure that we are getting the word out that we're kind of in a new day on civil rights and programmatic enforcement and oversight. And this is the wave. We have the leadership of the Secretary, and it is, a really wonderful, momentous opportunity that we have, and our responsibility to make sure that we live up to it.
Portia, the entrepreneurs that stood up, they are go mode. We selected them because they're in a go mode. They're ready now. They don't need any technical assistance. They don't need any training. They just need the opportunity. Am I correct? Right? And so what we want to hear, particularly these entrepreneurs, they want to be primes. But I want you to know that there are still biases as these contracts are reviewed and select the finalists, that many of these minorities are overlooked, and they have to relegate to being a sub. And they don't want to be sub because they're in a go mode. They have capacity, right? We need to be a better connector. And I need to work with your office and your office and your office and your office to make sure that there's expediency for these contracts, because Philadelphia really needs it, right? You heard Leslie talk about the poverty and the job creation we need to have in our city. And they stood up, right? So our conversation should be, how do we take these go mode entrepreneurs and get them on a fast track, right?
Two things I want to leave you with today. We are in go mode also. And thanks to this administration, thanks to this secretary, we have the time, and the time is now. It is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. So SEPTA is doing two major things we've never done before. Number one is we are providing a micro-purchasing platform, which we've never had before. We're opening it up to small businesses. We're starting small because we want to lay a strong foundation. But by the end of this month, we'll be offering opportunities for small businesses to be primes. It's going to start at the $3,000 level, and I know that might sound small right now, but within a few months, it'll be up to $25,000. And in a few months after that, we intend to keep increasing the numbers. We want to get it out, and we want to get it out now. We didn't want to wait until we were ready, because the money is here and we want to spend it and we want to figure out how to do it and how to do it right. So that is starting in just a few weeks. Number two is we're working very closely. You heard me mention my colleague Dorval Carter, who's the CEO of the Chicago Transit Authority. We have been working in lockstep. Our SEPTA team, and if I could just ask our SEPTA team to raise their hands so you'll know who they are. We have a bunch of SEPTA people here, including Chief of Staff Liz Smith, including Nathan Heitzman, who's been helping us with this. Yeah, go ahead, stand up.
And turn around.
If you need more information, this is who you want to go to. I want to make sure everyone understands who you want to go to. And for the first time ever, we are working with a reciprocal business certification program with Chicago. What that means is that very soon, all certified businesses, small businesses in Philadelphia who can do work at SEPTA will automatically be able to do work with Chicago Transit. Billions of dollars that is already planned. They're a little bit ahead of us on major projects, right? So again, we wanted to make sure that those of you who are up and running and ready to go, you had the big projects that you could go while we figure out and ask the federal administration for more money for our big projects. Chicago is already in the pipeline. We anticipate this, and we know it's going to be a national model, how others work more closely together. So we are very excited. It also means that those in Chicago will be able to do business with us. So automatically we'll be expanding the pool, we'll be expanding the scope, we'll be expanding the number, we'll be expanding the dollars. We'll be hitting well over that 20% mark, and we're very excited about it. So make sure you talk to us afterwards if you have any questions, and please keep your ears open because the next couple of weeks are going to be pretty exciting with a lot of new announcements and deadlines and things to do. And we're not sitting on our hands here. We are ready. We're ready for you.
So, Della, I would say, too, from DOT's perspective, certainly the Office of Civil Rights have been doing a number of community of practice events and series all around the country with our state DOTs, really helping them push the envelope, much like our Secretary asked us to do on direct procurement. Our Office of Civil Rights are working with the Offices of Civil Rights at the state level to really, number one, make sure that they're educated on goal setting and how to really look at the market and analyze the market for folks like you. So we do need you to be certified. We do need you to be present so that we can account for you is one thing. Another thing that our office has been doing, we've been doing a number of roundtables with state DOT secretaries and with state DOT procurement officers as well, to number one, give the message from USDOT that we're really serious about our equity plan and we're really serious about them really doing outreach and trainings and providing the access that we know is available to them. And we're not just leaning on them to come back with all the numbers and to do all the heavy work. We're also bringing our partners from the federal level and our resources from the federal level to the local markets as well. So when you say access to capital, we are definitely leaning into the Treasury Department and SBA and others who have those resources and need to be very targeted of where they invest, much like they've invested in your SBIC, but where they invest to help us to get the bill done. So we're trying to do a number of things, and I would encourage all of you businesses in the audience, please make sure that you're visiting with SEPTA, that you're visiting with your state DOT, and that they know that you're out there, that they have your capability statements. We certainly want to do business with you on a direct procurement level as well. I know our secretary is getting ready to up our goal again, but that's okay. We're going to rise to the challenge. So make sure that your partners, your stakeholders, your entities have your capability statements, know that you're out there, and as you say, they know that you're in go ready. What does that mean? That you can produce your bond readiness, right? And that you can show your experience on your contracts as well. So if there's anything that the OSIBU office can do, if there's anything that our Office of Civil Rights can do, our partners at SEPTA, at Pennsylvania DOT, we stand ready to lock arms with you. But we also need to hear from you. If you are knocking on doors and that door is not being opened or not having access, we want to know that as well, because we can certainly work through our local partners, either the Enterprise Center, or we can work through our regional grants partners that have accountability to meeting our goals as well. So I just want to make sure that you all know that we're coming at this from a multi-pronged approach. There's no one straight fix to getting everybody engaged. We need to hear from you. We need to look at creative ways of doing our program, and thank you so much for teaming up with CTA as well. We look forward to that model, and I know our Office of Civil Rights are looking forward to how that's going to work out on our certification piece as well. So thank you.
So all of my questions and comments really have been in the form of speaking for the entrepreneurs. That's the job I do every day, is speak on their behalf. And so I just want to be clear, Shelby, as we talk about capital, that again, these are clients that have capacity. They're not looking for small amounts of money, right? We want the ones that stood up to be able to do mergers, acquisitions. We're talking about millions of dollars, right? We need to make sure that access to capital is large amounts of money. You know, when you're getting ready to do a merger acquisitions, you have due diligence costs, you want expert legal fees. There's a lot of things associated with growth that these small businesses struggle to pull that together, which is why a lot of their transactions go sideways, right? And so what we want to do is we need to focus on millions of dollars for these entrepreneurs, not thousands of dollars. Did I say that correct, entrepreneur? Thank you. Right.
I think we hear you.
Well, this is my only opportunity, Secretary.
No, we hear that loud and clear, and we think that opportunity is there, but we do need to hear a couple things I'll mention. One, I know there are so many stories from businesses that are aware that opportunities exist, but it feels like you already have to be kind of on the inside in order to have any access. That there are lots of ways, formal and informal, that project sponsors, even well-intentioned ones, just out of habit, go where they're used to going. Even if that's no longer the best place to get your needs met, and certainly the best place to grow who gets a chance at this work, right? So we're trying to open that up with some of the tools we have. That's what these procurement tools are about. Make sure it is clear as day what the opportunities are now, and try to give you a bit of a preview on what the opportunities are that are coming soon. Because part of the beauty of the infrastructure package is that it creates a pipeline. It's not just this year went well, hope we get some funding next year. It's years and years worth of work that you can use not just to plan the future of a transit system or the future of a city streetscape, but also the future of the private sector that's going to help build that, because you know that there's more work coming. The workers you are recruiting and training will know that there is more opportunity for them, and that it's worth participating in the apprenticeship program or the hiring program or the education opportunity that's being offered at a local partner like the community colleges we're working with. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. The other is again, to return to the importance of us getting direct input from these entrepreneurs in processes, including the official formal process underway right now, where we're taking that written comment that becomes part of the record. What are the biggest things that need to change? I mean, the scope, in fact, I should probably ask Shelby and or Portia to talk a little bit about the things that are going to be up in this rulemaking. Because so many of the things we're hearing about, personal net worth, certification, prompt payment, and cash flow. The things we're hearing about, many of these are contemplated in the rule that we're about to overhaul. And so it's a great time to get those stories on the table so that we can make sure that the mechanism is working better for the businesses who's intended to help. Can you share a little bit about some of the things that are going on in that rule?
I'm going to ask Portia
Portia
to do, but I want to also add to your comment, not just the stories of what's not working, but recommendations. And recommendations from entities like yours who are working with them every day. We need to hear from you about best practices as well. Portia?
And and success stories. We had a great meeting a few weeks ago with the National Association of Black Women in Construction, sharing success stories, not just horror stories. We'll take the horror stories so we can tear down barriers. But, how did somebody get from being a sub to being a prime? How did somebody get that experience where they weren't just brought along on a project to check a box, but actually got to do the work that they trained and got into this field in order to actually do and grow and get challenged in the right ways? So, sorry, but I just wanted to jump in with that too.
That is absolutely correct, and so no apologies needed. So again, it is open until October 31st, and I guess want to just address, providing comments sounds like a really daunting task. It is not. There is no formality required. You do not need to, write a big fancy letter. Like, please go online, come to our website. You can find it, find a link from DOT's Office of Civil Rights website. Or go through regulations.gov and search for NPRM, stands for Notice of Public Rulemaking. Specifically on our DBE program, so that's our Disadvantaged Business Enterprise program, and our AC DBE program, so our Airport Concessions DBE program through FAA. And so, as the Secretary mentioned, some of the things that are up and open, and we want to hear about everything, but specifically the personal net worth, we hear and see and understand that is, a barrier to growth, especially when you've been a part of a program, been able to take, advantage, and suddenly you're successful and then you're out on your own. And so between that, the streamlining, we've heard about, reciprocity issues. Those are, things to be addressed. We're, especially looking for feedback between our DBE process and the 8A process through SBA. We are, the enforcement aspect is something that has come up and we've received a lot of input on and want to learn more, especially in terms of recommendations as to what that can look like. So, we're using our tools and our technical assistance to state DOTs and our recipients to talk about bringing business owners like you to the table in other processes, like through public involvement. You all are meaningful parts of community. You should be a part of the outreach and community engagement in those transportation decision-making processes, but also then how we need that feedback, from your experience as business owners and implementers and doers of the work as well. And so, again, nothing formal required. Please log on, share your thoughts. We just need to hear them. And the way in which comments are consolidated, we need to hear from as many people as possible on these experiences. And are looking forward to seeing some of your names in the record at the close on October 31st.
So I really want to encourage, you heard Portia, encourage the entrepreneurs to follow up, because we talk a lot about certification, about size and standard, assets. So now is the time to put your comments in. So I really encourage you, when you leave here today, to go by before October 31st and put your comments in. I want to thank this panel. I could go on and on, and I'm just so excited about the Secretary being here and the opportunity to really get him to tell me what he's going to do for us here in Philadelphia. And you heard Leslie, I'm going to stalk her, okay? I'm going to get everything you need. All right. And I have worked with Portia, so we will continue to work again. And Shelby, I work with Shelby often. And so I'm going to have you guys leave, because we want the Secretary to be welcomed by the mayor before he leaves the stage, all right? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time today.